Earlier I showed you guys a build for a new fantasy LARP that I was going to attend last February, and it was a blast, so I want to keep on playing. And the next event was in September, which means that some changes might need to be made to this costume, considering this is a full winter outfit, and September in the Netherlands can go either two ways. It's still full on summer and this is going to be way too warm, or it's going to be cold and full on autumn already, in which case I can wear this. But just in case, let's make a summer version of this costume. So first of all, we need to ditch the tunic, the woolen under tunic, considering this is going to be way too warm. So I need to make another tunic that's slightly more airy and cooler. And secondly, I want to be able to ditch the jacket. Considering, well, it's a long sleeve jacket, this might be too warm. And aside from the jacket, we also have the cape. I do really want to keep the cape. The reason for that is that I think it's quite an iconic part of the way this costume looks. And I still want to be able that other people can recognize this character at one glance. And I think the cape is going to help in that. The thing is, normally you can still recognize people when they change clothing. However, in LARP that is a problem because people play different characters, sometimes at the same LARP. Usually costume changes indicate that they have changed character. So I want people to be able to know that I'm still playing the same character, and for that I think the cape is quite relevant. So that means even on the summer costume we need a button here. And I need something to attach that button to. If we have the button here on a piece of fabric and we're going to attach a weight to it, this is going to move and be really uncomfortable. So we need something sturdy to attach the button to. Aside from that, you might have noticed that I like leather work, sorta, kinda. So I figured, why not fix this with an armor? This character needs her range of motion. She is an agile archer. I need to be able to move my arms to actually do archery, so the armholes need to be quite big, and I think I'm going to make it short. Shorter armor is easier to make, and it's actually going to be more comfortable to wear because you have less rigid parts on you. So, you know, I've got my comfortableness high, and considering this character doesn't really need it for protection, we can just keep it as small as possible, basically. So that's what my plans are to change this up. I'm going to make another tunic, and I'm going to make a short leather torso armor. So that's exactly what I did, as might have been spoiled by my previous two video releases, but anyway. For the tunic, I went to the fabric store and asked for a fabric in the same color as the woolen tunic. The store didn't really have anything plain cotton or plain linen, but they came up with this. She gave me this muslin, I think it's called in English. It's basically two layers of cotton that are slightly woven together. It creates a really weird fabric in that way, as in, if you wear it, it feels as if it's supposed to be really warm, but it isn't. If you're standing still, it will keep you warm, but if you're moving, it's very airy and therefore very light. It's also super soft and really comfortable to wear. So I am really happy that she suggested me this fabric, and I went with a slightly more army green color than the original tunic. And I guess considering colors are also different in winter than colors are in summer and spring, I guess a slight color difference doesn't really matter. Then when I looked at all of the threads I had laying around, I couldn't find any thread in the same color as this tunic. So I opted for this yellow thread, and I think the slight contrast, it adds just a tiny bit of detail that, well, finishes the thing, and I'm super happy with it. As you could see from the video release, I also added some gussets for extra comfortableness. So yes, all in all, I am super happy with this tunic. I just put it through the laundry and it came out rather crinkled, but I don't mind because, well, this is a character that's always on the go. Her clothes will never be properly ironed. One thing, if you're working with this fabric, wash it beforehand. It shrinks really badly. So definitely, usually you should always wash your fabrics, and I hardly ever do, but this one you really need to launder before you start working with it. So all in all, super happy with the tunic. That went just as expected, ready to go for the summer event. And next up was the armor part. I am super happy with the way that this turned out. I could never have imagined that it would have looked this way just when I started it. When I started sketching it, and even after I had the patterns, I'm still amazed by the way that it ended up looking. I mean, it has some decorations, but they're simple enough for, well, what the character is. It's not lavish decorations, but just a tiny bit extra. The idea is that this character makes her own stuff and actually knows what she's doing. So in downtime, when there is actually time to rest and chill, she can actually work on stuff like this, and if she enjoys it, why not add the tiny bits of decoration? As you might be able to see, the leather is not even. There are bits and marks and everything on here. And that's because I specifically bought B quality leather for this armor. It means leather that has slight marks and imperfections and isn't the same thickness everywhere. Basically, it's not perfect leather. And I think this fits the character. And I am super happy with the way that it looks, and I'm definitely going to use B quality leather in the future, as it just fits so many of my characters to have slight scuff marks, imperfections, and in a way, B quality leather will do the weathering for you. I also noticed that my brown thread was slightly running out, and I also had this color laying around. So I just put it on the leather and checked what it looked like on color wise. And I actually quite like it. And adds another bit of that tiny bit of contrast. As you can see on the back, which I am absolutely happy with. I mean, the fact that we made this into 2 pieces was something of a hindsight when we put the pattern flat and noticed that it still had curves. So when we had the seam here, I figured, why not make it a statement? I love things that look like spines in a way, in armors and costumes and things, and I think this slightly resembles it. So it's just again that not a whole lot of extra effort to stitch it this way, but I'm super happy with the way that this turned out. And again, on the B quality leather, it has scratch marks. This saves me weathering. This is weathering done for me. And it fits. Again, also because of the B quality, it didn't dye very even. And I like it. It adds a tiny bit of marble effect. And in other changes, you might notice something missing. There's no button there. The thing is, when I finish this armor, I like it so much the way it looks right now that I'm afraid that adding a button is going to ruin it. The thing with adding a button is that I need to make holes somewhere here to actually add that button. And I think holes are too big to say, it's just weathering, it's battle damage. I don't want to do that. So I decided to ditch the cape for the summer version. But I think with the combination of the green and the brown, the same accessories, and the fact that I wear quite a bit of makeup with this character, in a way the characters are permanently sick, so I wear quite big eye bags with this character, which is really easy on Sunday to draw, by the way. And I mean, I'm also walking around in the same group of characters with my bow and arrow, and people will know it's the same character, I think. That's my thought process mostly into adapting costumes from one season to another. So that means now, time for the event. I just realized I forgot my lapel mic, so I'll have to do it like this. I hope the audio is okay. But here we go. It's the summer version of the winter costume. The character itself is still the same. I mean, the makeup, it's pretty recognizable. I got my arrows, I will have my bow with me when the game is actually starting. All that sort of stuff, it still makes the same recognizable character. The thing is though, I made a full summer costume, and of course Dutch Weather said, you know what, let's make it a 16-degree maximum. So what I do in this case, I just wear a thermal underneath. I mean, it is visible, but not that visible, so people just have to live with it. So here we go, this is pretty much how I made a summer version of my winter costume. So yeah, sometimes things don't really go as planned, especially when it comes down to weather forecasts. It was a really cold and wet weekend. As I already showed you, I had my thermals on, actually wore a tank top as well. So I think I had 2 layers on under the tunic, and it still was slightly too cold. So this was basically how I wore the costume the entire event. I had my tunic and my armor, and whenever it was needed, I put on the jacket and the cape, which was pretty much all of the event. But nonetheless, I am super happy that I added these 2 pieces, as it just gives slightly more versatility in the way I want to wear the costume. And I also think the armor definitely adds to the costume in its entirety. Another thing that I learned this weekend is I might just ditch this cape. I'm probably going to make a different one. Biggest thing here is that the fabric is wrong. It just doesn't work for this kind of cape. Also, if I'm going to make a new cape, I'm probably not going to make one with the button. It's a really cool idea, but as you can see with the summer-winter version, It's just less versatile. So yeah, things in hindsight. And again, LARP costumes are never done and they will always continue changing, oftentimes adding stuff, but sometimes taking stuff away again. So I hope you enjoyed my insights and mostly thought processes on how I adapt my costumes for different events in different times of the year. And with that, thank you all for watching and see you guys next time.